Before we get into the 12 lessons, let's take a minute and set the stage properly, because to understand real courage, you have to strip away the Hollywood polish. World War II didn't turn ordinary people into heroes overnight. It cornered them, pressured them, and demanded decisions that could cost their lives in seconds. These weren't soldiers. They weren't trained, briefed, or issued a manual. They were teachers, shopkeepers, mail carriers, carpenters, students, and parents who woke up one morning in a normal world and ended the day in a nightmare. Yet some of the most enduring acts of bravery in the entire war came from these people. If you study this period long enough, you see a pattern. Ordinary individuals consistently stepped past their breaking point because they chose duty over fear, clarity over confusion, and action over paralysis. And that choice, repeated thousands of times across continents, helped turn the tide of the war. So, in this guide we're breaking down 12 specific courage lessons drawn straight from these civilians. For anyone serious about preparedness, resilience, or understanding human behavior under extreme pressure, these lessons matter. Let's get into them. Lesson 1 is understanding that small acts can ripple outward into massive impact. The Dutch bike couriers who carried coded messages weren't rescuing armies or sabotaging tanks. They were simply moving intelligence from one contact to another. Yet those small transfers shaped entire resistance networks. Applying this today means respecting the value of minor, consistent actions. Whether it's learning a new survival skill for 10 minutes a day or strengthening one relationship in your local community, the same principle applies. Sustained small efforts create strategic strength. Lesson 2 is that courage often begins with a single private decision, not a public stand. French civilians who agreed to hide Allied airmen didn't announce it or wait for approval. They just said yes once, then followed through. In modern life, this translates to making quiet commitments before you're tested. A prepper, for instance, decides privately to begin storing emergency water or to train their family in basic procedures. When the moment comes, that decision is already made. Lesson 3 is that situational awareness becomes its own form of courage. Polish civilians who tracked German troop movements and passed them to the Allies relied on careful observation, patience, and self-discipline. They didn't panic, didn't rush, and didn't speak more than necessary. Anyone studying survival today can apply this by learning to read their environment more intelligently, knowing exits, recognizing abnormal behavior, or understanding local risks. Awareness reduces fear because it increases control. Lesson 4 is that bravery grows when people band together with shared purpose. The Danish resistance succeeded not because they were fearless, but because they acted collectively. Farmers, doctors, and students, all linked by the same goal of helping Jewish families escape. Community preparedness today follows the same pattern. Teams outperform lone individuals. When neighbours coordinate communication plans or emergency responsibilities, everyone becomes stronger. Lesson 5 is that improvisation under pressure is a survival multiplier. Civilians trapped in the Blitz survived because they adapted, turning basements into shelters, reinforcing windows, even sharing supplies in unofficial networks. Courage wasn't dramatic. It was practical. You can apply this by training yourself to adapt tools for multiple uses, planning redundancies, and staying mentally flexible instead of rigid. Lesson 6 is that moral clarity eliminates hesitation. Many Italian villagers protected Allied prisoners simply because, to them, helping another human being outweighed every threat. They didn't debate their values in the moment. This applies today through knowing exactly what principles you won't compromise. Clarity speeds decisions and reduces panic. Lesson 7 is that courage thrives when you control the pace of your fear. Londoners in bomb shelters learned to manage panic through routines, tea brewing, card games, singing. They didn't eliminate fear, but they controlled its tempo. In a modern emergency, rhythm matters. Establish routines early, whether that's structured communication, scheduled check-ins, or a set order of tasks. Lesson 8 is that resistance often begins with mastering everyday tasks under duress. Civilians forging documents or hiding supplies were doing ordinary jobs, but at extraordinary risk. The takeaway is simple. Perfect your basics. Fire starting, water purification, navigation, communication, all become acts of courage when conditions deteriorate, but only if you already know what you're doing. Lesson 9 is recognizing when to stay invisible. The most successful couriers, saboteurs and shelterers were those who blended in completely. They survived because they didn't attract attention. This is a direct lesson for preparedness gear, skills and plans are only useful if they don't put a target on your back. Low profile equals higher survival. Lesson 10 is that courage includes knowing when to flee, not just when to fight. Thousands of civilians survived the Eastern Front not by resisting, but by evacuating early. Retreat saved entire families. Modern preppers must accept that evacuation is not weakness. It's strategic. Know multiple routes, transport options, and trigger points for leaving before you're trapped. Lesson 11 is that emotional resilience is built through bonds, not silence. Civilians in occupied Belgium survived trauma because they talked, shared food, shared fears, and shared plans. Isolation breeds panic. Connection breeds endurance. Preparing emotionally today means building relationships that strengthen your psychological endurance. Lesson 12 is that courage endures when people believe the future is worth fighting for. Across Europe, civilians preserve photographs, diaries, songs, and religious items. These weren't luxuries. They were reminders of what life was supposed to be. In survival situations today, maintaining a sense of purpose, a long-term goal, a family mission, a community vision, keeps you moving when everything feels impossible. If this deep dive into history and survival taught you something valuable, make sure you subscribe to Battlefield Survival and share this video. These lessons stay relevant because courage never goes out of date, and there's always more to learn from those who walked through fire before us.